futures to the Chinese for pennies on the dollar to get some cash. And the Chinese will be very happy to pump oil there for the next 10 years for free.
Yeah, I've read some of your writings about this. Absolutely incredible. And people can't. People think, oh, this can't happen. What happened in Venezuela cannot happen in America, of course. But the context certainly that you've given the fact that third largest, the numbers that you gave, I mean, certainly proves that it most assuredly can happen here in America if the wrong decisions are made. What was not too long ago, and Joe, you had mentioned this on air, President Trump was, or at least our government was saying something about intervening militarily in Venezuela. Mr. Murray, what are they referencing there? Was it kind of an extension of the Bush doctrine, if you will?
I can't even imagine.
Okay.
It's a well-armed nation. Maybe he was talking about helping to get people out. I mean, Bush Sr. did go into Panama and rapidly clean up what was a drug cartel, but we left and it was turned back over to the people very rapidly.
Right.
I don't know that that could happen in Venezuela yet. It is a very difficult situation. The country, unfortunately, just can't flip over and die and go bankrupt because of the tremendous amount of oil that it has. So the people are going to suffer probably through a civil war is more than likely what is going to happen next. I was recently in Cuba and saw some of the outcome there, and it is the same. I wrote a column about my tour guide
Yeah,
being
have it right here.
yeah,
And
tour
please
guide.
talk about this. Yes, please talk about this.
My tour guide was an attorney. The first tour guide, I had three tour guides. The first one was an attorney, the second one was attorney, and the third one was an aviation engineer and commercial airline pilot. Um, because these were the best jobs they could get. Virtually everybody in Cuba has a college education. But the problem is there's simply no jobs for what they're educated for. It is sort of like I go to, we have I don't know if you've got it there, but we've got the Wawa. It's like a 7-Eleven. You
Sure.
go in there, there's young grads, people with grad with college degrees in there. They're running the cash register. We're educating people for positions that are unneeded or that are unobtainable. And in Cuba, it was far worse, where there was universal education through college. So everybody has some kind of a degree, and the only good paying jobs there now are in tourism. So the people that are very, very well educated are gravitating back toward tourism rather than being in a lawyer or an aviation engineer or something of that nature. Um, the situation in Cuba after decades and decades and decades of this utopian dream, um, it's just incredibly bad. It's just incredibly bad. Um, uh, it is it is third world, and there's no reason for it to be third world, considering its location. The agriculture is gone. We went by factory after factory after factory that was shut. The people really have nothing except their hand. By the way, Cuban cigars, don't buy any Cuban cigars. You're probably buying Honduran tobacco that ruined the tobacco fields, and they ship in tobacco now and hand roll the cigars there and sell them as Cuban cigars. So it's let the buyer beware.
Boy, now that's a problem. Okay, because I'm a cigar man, but thanks for that tip, by the way. All right, wow. Well, what you saw in Cuba, and you explained it pretty well. I mean, the article, by the way, is from April 27th, but it's still relevant today. WesternJournalism.com, education for all in Cuba. My tour guide is a lawyer. Fantastic article that you've written. Uh, Time is running so short. Mr. Murray, again, thank you for coming on. Your book, Utopian Road to Hell. Thanks for writing that. But before you leave, can I? before the top of the hour here, we've got to talk about your current endeavors in with your various organizations. Which one do you want to start with? Because you got a number, and I think they're all just
The Religious Freedom Coalition is the blanket organization, and the others are really not organizations; they're projects of the Religious Freedom Coalition. And we really we do a lot of work on Capitol Hill. We're working on HR 390 now, which is a bill not only condemning the genocide of Christians in the Middle East, but basically ordering how the aid is given, because with a treaty that we're a part of, we are supposed to be helping the victims of genocide first, not those who perpetrate genocide and then having the victims last in line, which has been the case for the last 8 years. And then in the Middle East, we're working to help those victims of genocide who happen to be the Christians, particularly the Iraq and the Assyrian Christians. And we have several programs over there. Two of our biggest are diapers for refugees, where we deliver diapers to the families who have been not necessarily refugees, but displaced if they're in the same country. We deliver diapers to those. It's one of those things that we chose because it wasn't being taken care of by any other aid group. We do large Christmas programs for the children, where they're brought in out of the freezing cold in Iraq and in Jordan, where they're refugees, and in Lebanon, and we give them a basically half-day program trying to restill the imagery of Christmas and what it's about, and the gospel stories, gospel puppet shows, gospel music, coloring books, the kind of a meal that they're used to for holiday gifts for them to take home and for their families, in order to try to reinstill hope in them, where they've had everything taken away. Many of these Christian families were middle class. People have the wrong image. Syria and Iraq, these weren't camels and tents and deserts. These were modern countries. Syria had a higher rate of college educated than the United States. These were modern cities, a dynamic a nation that has absolutely been devastated and destroyed, and the Christians have taken the brunt of it. We do our best, to help the Christian refugees there as best we can. When those, and we don't take any USAID funds, we don't take any EU funds, because if we do, then our aid has to be distributed according to the population,
right.
and that means that we can only help a very small percentage of the Christians. So we work diligently to help the actual victims of genocide.
And that I don't want to sound trite, but that's a full-time job. I mean, my goodness, the Christians seem to be. What happened to all of the Christians in Syria? What happened to all of the Christians in Iraq? I mean, genocide, is that what we're saying? Yeah,
It is genocide. Most of them fled. Oddly enough, right now, Christians are streaming back into Syria as the government it has apparently won the civil war. The Christians are streaming back into Syria. In fact, 600,000 600,000 Syrians have returned to their homes so far this year. Over 60% of those have gone back to Aleppo now that Aleppo is free of the jihadists. But the Christians are not going back to Iraq. They don't see a future in Iraq. And that should tell us something. We've got a constitution there, the new constitution, which says that no law shall violate Islamic tradition and law, and with that in the Constitution as one of the primary sections of the Constitution, Christians are really afraid to go back. The situation is very difficult. It's very, very complex. But this is the root. This is the trunk of the church, the root and trunk of the church. We're the branches over here. This is where, if you recall, Paul was on the road to Damascus. Damascus was the first where the first great church was outside of Jerusalem.